This is Verona, a small town in southwest Missouri. Early in 1970, a now defunct pharmaceutical company leased manufacturing facilities here and produced a number of chemicals. Some wastes from the manufacturing process were contaminated with dioxin. Some of the chemical waste products were disposed of at a nearby farm owned by James Denny, something EPA learned through an anonymous call to the Kansas City regional office.
Mr. Denny, did the chemical company let you know what was in the barrels before they buried them on your farm?
No, they didn't tell me what was in it. They just said it's waste. It wasn't nothing harmful.
Did they give you any idea of the contents in any way?
Well, they did say clay. That's about the only thing they did tell me. Just clay in the waste product. There wasn't no liquid in it or nothing, you know.
What do your neighbors think about this situation here? Are they...
I really haven't talked to them. That's the only thing that's what I've heard them talk about. One, they said it didn't have no trouble with this water or anything. I really ain't talked to none of them.
What do you think of the Environmental Protection Agency's operation here?
Well, I think everybody done a good job. Took a precaution to it, you know, that didn't take no chances with this, what they thought might be in there, you know, the dioxin or what, you know.
EPA suspects that some of the buried material may be dioxin-contaminated wastes. Dioxin is one of the most toxic substances known to man. Spread through water or the food chain, it is considered extremely dangerous in low concentrations. April 1980. The intensive field investigations are ready to begin. A series of public meetings keeps nearby townspeople informed of EPA's plans and goals. And now, after months of careful planning, the full field investigation is ready to begin. Dan Harris from EPA's Region 7 office is the on-site coordinator.
Remember, when they go inside the fence, we're supposed to have the self-contained breathing apparatus on. Probably the collecting of the pit sample shouldn't take over a day or two at most. We'll do as much excavation with the backhoe as we can, and then somebody's going to have to go in there with the moon suits and do some hand shoveling. We'll decide on who's going to do that later. And we'll probably have to swap off with two different teams. It looks like it's going to be pretty hot while they're out there. Any questions?
On the perimeter holes, are we going to do the one inside the gate first so we can put up the decon station? Do that one first, then we can set up the decon and then move to the other outside holes.
Right. It's a good idea. You've also got...
The Denny Farm consists of 160 acres of pasture and timber, 7 miles south of Verona on Highway Double V. Access to the disposal site is along a dirt logging road. Large vans and other vehicles are coming, and the road is widened so they can enter the area. The field team arrives and begins to set up for the investigation. The plan includes taking samples from excavated drums and also from 12 boreholes close to the pit. A security fence is erected to enclose the area. A decontamination station is established at the entry point. Samples will also be taken from 12 more boreholes just outside the fence to check on lateral migration of contamination from the pit. Characteristics of the waste material buried at the site are unknown, so the security fence is erected to prevent the entry of wild animals and trespassers who could spread contamination to wider areas once the site is disturbed. No one will be allowed inside the fence without a physical examination and protective clothing. Hazardous warning signs are posted both on the security fence and next to the road leading into the site. A command post is established in the main trailer. The EPA trailer is linked to the regional office and to a public information center nearby in the town of Aurora. A decontamination trailer, complete with shower facilities, is located near the decon station for the site. A diesel generator provides power for the entire site. Each day, fresh water is trucked to the site, water used for personnel showers, for the clothes washer, and for the decon station at the security fence. A wind speed and direction station provides for an additional amount of worker safety by keeping unprotected personnel upwind when the pit is opened. The decon station at the security fence is set up. A sand-filled shuffle pit, a grate with a catch basin underneath, and soap and water for washing down protective gear. One of the first jobs is to survey the locations of the boreholes, 12 outside the fence and 12 surrounding the disposal pit. Each surveyed location is swept with a metal detector to avoid drilling down into any buried drums. The wind direction meter is checked to make sure that the self-contained breathing apparatus units are filled upwind of the site. This will ensure that the tanks are filled with uncontaminated air. Water in the ice chest keeps the cylinders cool as they're filled. The workers can then strap on the tanks immediately after they're filled. Drums that will hold contaminated materials to be left at the site are marked. The site investigation is designed so that these least hazardous jobs are done first, giving team members a chance to get acquainted with the area, with procedures, and with each other. An initial learning process. After obtaining a blank borehole sample, a quarter of a mile from the actual site to maintain analytic quality control, samples are taken from the outer ring of boreholes. Hole 22 is first. Examination of the soil cuttings by a geologist shows a high clay content. This suggests that lateral migration of contaminant is unlikely. Sampling in the remaining outer boreholes is canceled, and preparations are made to take samples from the inner ring, beginning with borehole number 5. Anything that goes into the fenced area has to be decontaminated or disposed of after use. Delicate instruments, such as this photoionizer, which cannot be adequately decontaminated, are wrapped with plastic so the wrapper, not the unit, can be thrown away. The photoionizer will be used to detect any gases or fumes coming from the boreholes as they're drilled. A vent is made in the wrapper to allow proper operation of the unit. A check is made for proper fit of face mask respirators. Special smoke blown into the test bag will cause an involuntary cough if there's a leak in the mask or if it doesn't fit right. Personnel check out their face masks. Regular glasses or contacts cannot be worn with the masks. People needing glasses must have masks fitted with special frames and lenses. During operations, the self-contained breathing apparatus will be in the positive pressure mode to ensure that if the face mask does not fit properly, any leaks which might occur are out of the mask instead of into it. Workers wear protective clothing, rubber knee boots, Una-in gloves, and vinyl work suits. Additional leather gloves improve the grip and protect against punctures. Each worker again checks that his mask fits properly and that the air cylinder is strapped on securely. The main line valve is opened, the bypass valve closed. A hard hat and a face mask complete the protective clothing. The drilling rig is positioned over the borehole, the location of which is marked by a small stake. The rig is leveled, and then the drilling mast is raised to a vertical position. The hole is drilled with a hollow-stemmed auger. Drilling depth varies between 5 to 10 feet, with most holes planned for around 9 feet. During drilling, the hole is monitored closely with a photoionizer for any evidence of hazardous gases. Since no gases are detected, workers change from self-contained breathing apparatus to face mask respirators during the drilling of the remaining holes. Throughout the entire drilling process, monitoring with the photoionizer continues. Once the desired depth is reached, the auger bit is removed and the split spoon inserted. It's driven down by hammer on the rig to collect a 2-foot vertical sample of the soil. The spoon is broken loose and brought to the surface. Extreme care is taken in handling each borehole sample. The sample is placed in a transfer pan and then taken to the decon station. The transfer pan is decontaminated after each use. The split spoon sampler is also decontaminated between each borehole to avoid any chance of cross-contamination of samples. The split spoon is washed with soap and water and rinsed first with ethyl alcohol and then with a solution of trichloroethane. All parts of the drilling rig are thoroughly washed with soap and water. The pickup truck used to move the drilling rig around is also scrubbed down. Even the smallest amount of dioxin is significant, and great care is taken to avoid any inadvertent contamination. After the last borehole sample has been obtained and final decontamination is completed, the truck and drilling rig are driven out of the security fence. Workers coming out of the fenced area also go through a decontamination procedure. Dioxin is not very soluble in water, so removal of potentially contaminated soil particles is a mechanical process. Working boots through the shuffle pit removes most particles that might bear dioxin. A thorough scrubbing and hosing down remove particles adhering to boots and other articles of clothing. Disposable splash suits that will be used again during the day are hung on the fence, as are the gloves. At the end of the workday, these items will be placed in marked drums to be left at the site. Boots are kept and used as long as they are intact. Protective breathing apparatus is taken inside the trailer and disassembled and washed. The decontamination trailer, with its dirty side and clean side, provides complete personnel decontamination at the end of the day. Used clothing worn under protective clothing will be washed in the trailer. After taking a shower, the worker puts on street clothes kept in a locker on the clean side. Totally enclosed moon suits will be worn by workers when in the pit. The moon suits offer maximum protection against dermal chemical exposure. Before excavation of the site begins, the workers who will be working in the pit make a dry run with the moon suits. This gives them a chance to check out communications with the command post. The activating radio switch is within the suit, at the shoulder. The team leader also makes sure that personnel are thoroughly familiar with the suit, can quickly complete a preliminary decon, and know how to disconnect the SCBAs so that ambient air can be breathed while decontamination is completed. The backhoe operator, who also gets a physical exam, will be wearing an SCBA. He is checked out to make sure he is comfortable with the unit and knows how to operate it. Following completion of the excavation project, he will be given another physical. This is the day the disposal pit is to be opened. Information from interviewees has indicated that flammable solvents may be encountered, so arrangements are made for a fire truck to be on the scene. The truck is positioned upwind of the pit. The unit is equipped to apply a light water foam in case of fire. The rope that was previously laid down to mark the pit outline is removed. A worker alongside the pit directs the backhoe operator. Both men are in radio contact with the on-site coordinator, who is outside the security fence. The backhoe works from the side of the pit rather than on top, so it will not crush any drums by its weight. The Federal Aviation Agency has been contacted to restrict the airspace above the site. Low-flying aircraft, especially helicopters, could cause potentially dangerous distractions or disturbances of wind speed and direction during excavation. The operator works his bucket slowly and carefully to avoid damaging any drums just below the surface. The pit is opened, and excavation proceeds by shoveling. The worker does not need moon suit protection because he stays outside the pit proper, and it is unlikely he will come in direct contact with waste material. And just as important, the moon suit would make it difficult to see and to direct the backhoe operator, a situation that could also be hazardous. As he works, he constantly monitors for any dangerous escaping gases. As the drums are uncovered, the worker on the scene throws wooden stakes into the pit to be used later by men in moon suits to mark locations of the drums. 13 of the approximately 150 drums that were tumbled into the pit in July 1971 are uncovered. Their work completed, the backhoe operator and the man working by the pit leave the site. The men going into the pit have their vital signs checked and recorded and then get into their moon suits. The knives strapped to their legs are for emergency use in case they have to cut their way out of the suit should the air supply fail. Everyone looks alike in a moon suit, so identifying tape is put on their backs. Team members check out their communications before proceeding.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. You hear me, Phil? Hear me, Bob?
Workers can stay on scene with one tank for 20 to 25 minutes, depending on ambient air temperature, individual physiology, and how hard they work. An alarm warns them when the air supply is running low. The upper part of the suit is quickly deconned so the suit can be opened and the SCBA disconnected to allow the worker to breathe ambient air while the rest of the suit is cleaned. With a new air cylinder, he's ready to go back to work.
Is that the oil Gary was talking about by your feet there? Assume that's the drum where you are now. Okay.
The wooden stakes left in the pit are now used to mark the locations of the drums. The drums are open so that samples can be taken. Each drum is probed to check the contents. The amount of material and its characteristics are recorded.
This has got a clear liquid about a quarter to a half of a drum. Okay, let's mark that one.
As the contents of the drums are reported, the on-site coordinator decides whether to sample the drum, mark the stake with red paint, or not to sample it, mark the stake with white paint. For more permanent identification, each drum is numbered with spray paint. To characterize the contents of the pit, 8 of the exposed drums are selected for sampling. One of the drums contains unknown granular material, and a stainless steel spoon, which is relatively inert, is used to obtain a sample. The material is placed in an intermediate container which has been pre-marked with the drum's number on the lid and pre-wrapped with a plastic bag. Composite samples from the soil around the drums are also taken. These too are put into pre-marked containers. And finally, the liquids in the remaining drums are sampled by thieving with lab-clean glass tubes. The liquid samples are also placed in pre-marked interim containers. All samples are transported to the decontamination station. From start to finish, the samples are handled in a manner to preserve the chain of custody. The team prepares to transfer all the samples into other lab-clean containers equipped with Teflon lid liners. Each container is tagged carefully to note the date, time of collection, the site, and the identification of the sample. All samples are handled similarly. The containers are placed in plastic bags to protect the outside of the containers from spillage. These bags will be removed later when the sample transfer operation is finished. To verify sample analyses, each sample is split into 3 equal portions and 3 identical complete sets of sample bottles are prepared. 1 complete set will be sent to the EPA regional lab, 1 to an EPA contracted university lab, and the 3rd will be sent to the company which leased the manufacturing facilities to the now defunct chemical company that produced the wastes. The samples are photographed to maintain a documentary record. After the sample containers are allowed to air dry, they're packed for shipment. Standard procedures are followed. The jars are wrapped in plastic in case of breakage, then placed in paint cans. Vermiculite packing material holds them firmly, protects them from shock, and acts as an absorbent in event of breakage. Each paint can is labeled as to type of sample, destination, DOT hazard class, and requested analysis. Next, the cans are packed into ice chests using the same procedure. The ice chests are labeled to show their contents and their destination. The chests are sealed with special tape to preserve the chain of custody. The samples filled 24 ice chests, 8 going to each of the 3 destinations. The investigation site must now be secured until sample analyses are evaluated and the technical assessment of the site completed. Plastic covers are placed over the exposed drums to prevent dirt and water from entering the drums and to minimize migration of contaminants. All the spoons and tubes used to obtain samples are left in the pit. Workers collect other tools, such as picks and shovels, and head for the decon station. Then the drums are covered back up with dirt. At the decon station, the moon suits are decontaminated, and the workers' vital signs are taken and compared with earlier readings to note any abnormal trends. This procedure is done every time a worker leaves the secured area. This is the final decontamination of the work clothes. The moon suits are cleaned here at the decon station, then taken back to the EPA lab and given a wipe test for dioxin. The backhoe is washed down using the fire truck hose, and the hose is kept off the ground so it won't have to be decontaminated. Water is removed from the catch basin under the decon grate for transfer into 55-gallon drums that are sealed and left at the site. Also left at the site are drums containing contaminated, discarded clothing and items used in processing the samples. The gate is locked and the site is secured. The Denny Farm site investigation began with interviews of eyewitnesses and included town meetings and regular news media briefings. It was a success because it was well planned, coordinated, and took into consideration emergency contingencies, on-site safety, proper sampling, and chain of custody techniques, and security of the site when the field investigation was completed.